I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this review is going to be for this weekend's newest release, well, one in theaters and the other in Netflix, so technically two newest releases. This weekend, at the time this was recorded, Novocaine, which stars Jack Quaid as our new action hero protagonist of this movie. So what is the plot of Novocaine? Well, when the girl of his dream is kidnapped, a man that has this condition that renders them incapable of feeling physical pain turns this rare condition into an unexpected advantage in the fight to rescue her. Yeah. Pretty much a simple plot like that. Now, as for my reaction to Novocaine, I don't remember seeing any of the trailers much. I didn't really know much of this film. I didn't really see much of the advertising, or I don't really remember seeing the advertising. But I saw the concept and the plot, and this actually seemed like a pretty interesting watch. So, I went into this movie blind last night, once again at the time this was recorded, and what do you know? Honestly, I think this might easily have to be the first greatest movie of 2025. As in the first to be in like the 9 category. The few good movies that have come out earlier this year have been either 7.5 or 8 at best. This is the first to be in the 9 category. Not in the 10 category, but the 9. I actually like some new releases. I actually like some new movies that come out. I don't hate every new movie that gets released. There's actually some new movies I like. So how was Novocaine made? Well, in October 2023, it was announced that Jack Quaid would star in the action thriller film that was being developed called Novocaine. It would be directed by Robert Olson and Dan Burke and written by Lars Jacobson. And the first film from Film Nation Entertainment's production label Infrared. Then, the next year, in February 2024, Paramount would acquire the film with Aber Midthunder also being part of the cast, and some more cast members being announced like Brian Nicholson, Jacob Batalon, Betty Gabriel, Matt Walsh. They joined the cast of the film, and so filming began on April 8th, 2024 in South Africa, and was financed through Domain Entertainment. So, after the film was officially shot, Novocaine got released on March 14th of this year, and has gotten decently positive reviews from critics. I don't know how much it's made opening night yet, but from what I'm seeing in predictions, it might just make a decent. I have a feeling it'll probably make maybe my predictions are probably 14 million, maybe at most, because I don't think people really knew much about this film or really heard much about this film until it came out. I mean, I didn't even hear about it until it came out. I just saw the poster and I saw the plot. I was like, this actually seems like this might be a fun movie. I didn't even watch the trailers. I just went into the movie blind. Like that. So I think going to the movie blind made it even better. Honestly. The movie, from start to finish, it is definitely satisfyingly action-packed. It's smart, it's intelligent, it's witty, and there's some good comedy in the movie, and the comedy never really goes camp or slapstick. And a self-effacing Kane, is definitely a likable character, And despite like his shyness and awkwardness when you first meet him, he displays a number of flashes of utter brutality. Right there, the movie is not without a surprise or two, and it does also kind of ramp up the emotional conflict. And of course, like the movie, like it's not over 2 hours long. It's a simple like 109 or 110 minutes. So it's a perfect enough runtime for a story like this. And the movie does wrap up conveniently for everyone. Like, yeah. And the lead Kane and this surviving criminal like are kind of responsible for some deaths that happen, but to be fair, some of the people that they kill are actually bad people in a way. And plus they're not really assholes themselves, because like whenever an innocent does get injured, like they at least try to save them. They don't leave them to die or stuff. And there's when one cop is injured in the first like robbery, like Kane actually does try to save that cop's life, and he realizes that his girl supposedly kidnapped. He takes a pistol. It's like, don't worry, I'll bring the car back. Like, so he's not an asshole. Actually, he actually is still a pretty good person. Actually doesn't try to get any innocents hurt, and he does save one cop's life in the end. So he's still a likable hero. And beyond all the violence and bloodshed, like the movie actually does have heart. Like Jack Quaid in this film, I haven't really seen much films from him, but he was actually very excellent as Nathan Kane, like this mild-mannered assistant bank manager. He has a secret nobody knows about. He can't even feel any kind of pain at all. Every performance in this movie is very well done, and the comedy does work perfectly well. Right here, and so also Kane's love interest Sherry, played by Amber Midthunder, is also a great addition to the movie. You got also Ray Nicholson as the villain, and yeah, most of the cast actually does pretty well. And the cops in this film, now, the two cops that do pursue Kane, I think he's responsible for some of the crimes that are going on in the film. I'd say they're much better than the cops and the beekeeper. I will say that. I feel like this is how that lady and beekeeper should have been written. Like, I like that movie Beekeeper, but I really don't like that cop character. Could have been done without her. That movie could have been done without her. But the cops that are pursuing Kane in this film, they're definitely way better, and at least this time around they actually have their reasons to pursue him. Or they at least have somewhat justified reasons. So anyway, how does Novocaine start? Well, we meet our mild-mannered intro of our protagonist named Nathan Kane, who has this CIP condition that makes him congenital insensitivity to pain. He works as an assistant manager at a trust credit union in San Diego. Then he meets this coworker of his named Sherry Margrave, Amber Midthunder's character, and she pursues a relationship with him. But Nathan is a little hesitant because of his condition and experience with women, and of course, right there, like, even she's also a likable character when you first meet her. When, like, they go hang out at this diner, and we also find out that Nathan can't even eat physical food because, well, let's face it, there's this fear that his tongue may be bitten off, and we find out more about his past, where apparently his parents even locked him away until he was like 25 because of his condition. So you actually do kind of feel sorry for the character, and the character had a pretty shitty life in his childhood, so you actually kind of feel a bit of sympathy for the character when you first meet him. And then, of course, and Sherry's not a bitchy love interest. Like, she's actually a likable love interest. Like, she's not mad at him for that whole experience. Like she actually even does feel sorry for him too. So after him and Sherry go to this bar after a successful art sale because she is an artist, Nathan meets this middle school bully of his that calls him Novocaine. So what does Sherry do? So Sherry fakes this whole truce between them that they should let go of the past, but it's a secret way for her to humiliate the bully, give him his compounds and trick him into drinking a shot of hot sauce, and then put it on his tab, and then the two spend the night together. Like, yeah, like Novocaine really shows the extent, like, as how someone would go through to save someone they care about. It's filled with hopes, it's got a lot of action that really annihilates the underdog at any moment. There is some romance, more violence, and more audience concern for the well-being of the intended rescuer. And apart from displaying this heartless crime, like, it gets forewarned that Novocaine does kind of lack some positive humor at times, but the twists and reveals, like, they're pretty unpredictable, though. Like, they're not over obvious. One of them near the end kind of is, but let's say it doesn't really, let's say, hurt kind of the plot of the film that much. And of course, like, for a film like this, I did not expect this film to actually be quite brutal for an action comedy. Because it surprisingly is. Like, there's quite a few gory kills in this film. Like, it's got a combination of, like, John Wick levels of violence, and it's got a combination of Deadpool levels of both violence and comedy moments with the fight scenes. Like, there's one fight in a tattoo parlor where Nathan fights this tattoo artist that gave one of the robbers a tattoo, and like during the fight, he stabs that evil tattoo artist in the shoulder with a wood plank, and then of course Nathan purposely cuts his hands with glass. Then he slashes the artist's eyes with his glass cut hands, and the first fight with one of the crooks in this kitchen where Nathan actually picks up this whole pan that's burning, but because he can't feel any pain, it doesn't affect his hands. When the robber he's fighting touches it, it burns his hands. Then, of course, during that fight, Nathan puts his hand in a fryer, burns his hand there, and hell, like, the villain even gets stabbed right up the chin with this where the villain breaks Nathan's arm and a bone is sticking out. Nathan literally stabs the guy in the shoulder. No, not the shoulder. Up the chin. With a broken arm. With his broken arm bone. Like, yeah, there's actually quite a few times where I did kind of cringe at some of the more gorier bits. Like, the fact that the protagonist can't feel pain actually did make the scenes made the brutal scenes feel queasy. No, feel cringy. Like, Jack Quaid, more about Jack Quaid, they've said he's terrific, but he's also terrific and entertaining as Nathan Kane, and you really root for him and all the hilarious antics he goes through despite his injuries that, because of his condition, they don't affect him. And there's especially like some of the things he encounters that normally any real person would feel actually does not affect him. Like, he enters one of the robbers' house, it's all booby-trapped with a spike ball that gets lodged into his back, then a crossbow that goes into Nathan's leg, a hang wire that pretty much traps Nathan, and then like once Nathan's rescued by this best friend of his, I'll get to later, he literally quotes like, these guys are clearly Home Alone fans, and yeah, Amber Midthunter, she's also great as Sherry, and her chemistry with Nathan is also very relatable and perfect. As like their first scene where they're at that diner, she's helping him adjust to physical food with a slice of cherry pie. He doesn't bite into the cherry pie piece, he just kind of sucks on the piece, and he actually does like it. Right there, so I definitely do like the scenes they share together. So, the next morning after Nathan and Sherry spend their night together, it's Christmas Eve because I did mention apparently one of the biggest surprises, this actually does take place apparently during Christmas. He goes back to work at this bank because he works at a bank. These getting robbers, they dress up in Santa outfits, and they're led by this Simon Greenlee. They rob the bank and they take Sherry as a hostage after they kill Nathan's boss, and then they try to target Nathan for the whereabouts of the code. They do manage to get the code and they steal money. They take Sherry as a hostage, and Nathan, like, they even injure a few cops on their way out. Nathan then does tries to save this injured cop, but he ends up having to steal a cop car to pursue the car which Sherry's being held, but he promises the injured cop, don't worry, I'm going to bring the car back. Like, he's not, like, a reckless asshole. Like, at least he acknowledges he's just borrowing the car. At least he tells the cop that he's going to give the car back. Like, there, so he doesn't just drive off and ignore him. But he actually ends up following the wrong car, and ends up in confrontation with another robber, who's named Ben Clerk, in a restaurant kitchen. And after this fight with this pan and stuff, like, Nathan does actually injure his hand, like, in this whole little fryer, and then he eventually shoots Ben dead. And then, of course, then he goes to this other friend of his place where he does manage to take the bullet out where he got shot, and then pretty much glues the wound shut, and of course then he gives a shot. his friend of his that he's visiting is actually his shop is a shopkeeper, and there. And so after he leaves, he then gives him this mortgage. He then gives him some of the stolen money to pay off his loan, to pay off like his kind of loan to keep his shop open. But then like Nathan comes back, you might want to launder that first. And yeah, so he pretty much he then found out about Ben's tattoo, this tattoo he had. So Nathan goes to the tattoo place, he finds the artist, he interrogates him for Ben's address, hoping to find Sherry. And so after that whole fight I mentioned, with that pretty brutal fight, Ben's house is then booby-trapped as he sees. Right there, like he falls for the spike ball, he gets the crossbow in his leg, and then he gets stuck in the snare. And so he's now forced to call Roscoe. This friend of his that he's never met in person. Then Ben's brother, who actually owns the place, enters the house. Or actually, no, he was technically sent there. Technically sent there by the main villain. Who, they don't really torture their hostage, Sherry, because he's just sitting there normal. But there's a little bit more about that twist in a little bit. But right there, like, he does try to calm her down with this pack of, like, sour cola candies. And he then, like, eats them as he's kind of talking to her about the whole heist. And then after the scene ends, like, he like says, and by the way, these are horrible. Well, they're in my teeth even. Yeah, like, because to be fair, sour cola candies are actually, I actually kind of agree with him on that. Sour cola candies are disgusting. Sour cola gummies suck. Some of the, like, one of my least favorite candies in the world. It should have been something like, what else can I think of? Gummies are good. It should have been something like gummy bears. Those are better than sour colas. Or even peach rings. I'll take those over sour cola gummies any day. Or Jelly Bellies any day. So yeah, after that, and Andre then goes to the place because he was trying to look for Ben. And then he tortures Nathan, but Nathan pretty much fakes feeling any kind of pain. But the torture methods don't affect him though, but he has to fake it. Because he clearly knows Andre will be suspicious of him. But then Roscoe arrives and to actually save him. And then they overpower kill Andre. Then, of course, like, once they do both meet, and Roscoe pretends to be this, because of his helmet, he pretends to be Daft Punk, but then he reveals himself. And then there are these two police officers. They're trying to go after Nathan because they think he's responsible for some of the crimes. Or partially responsible, but the police officers, Mincy and her partner Coltrane, they arrive at the house and they arrest Roscoe. They think he's Nathan, but Nathan manages to escape. Like, the movie's definitely fast. It's ridiculous, and it definitely goes straight to the point. It's a fast ride to this whole rescue operation that has this quick intro and it sets things up and then dives into the big event. And the movie does really feel video game-like, where there's stages of intense bouts of comedic brawling, comedic brawling, some interludes to, like, reset the story, progress the story, and has the logic to make all this stuff work. And the ridiculous idea, yeah, it's a ridiculous idea, but it's a very plausible way, and to this world of heroism. The fight scenes are definitely creative, especially since our protagonist is a guy that can't feel any kind of pain. And it's a blended comedy and craziness that works well to keep the audience laughing and promising some of the action alongside it. Like, the film, it's definitely much bloodier than you expect. It's raw, it's vicious, and it's wonderful on a lot of levels. And how they kept things at a lot of the fights. And it's got some good collection of sound editing and a fantastic soundtrack. And really give it the flair with all the craziness and stuff. Like, whether it's the high stakes tension, the laugh out loud humor, or the touching moments, like, Novocaine never loses its rhythm. The story is very sharp, and the pacing really keeps you hooked, and the film's emotional core ensures it resonates long after the credits roll. And the movie, yeah, a movie that, like this, if it tried to take itself seriously, it wouldn't really be all that great. This film, on the other hand, doesn't really take itself seriously at all. But it's also not really just a one entirely big joke. Right there, I actually like that this movie doesn't really try to take itself seriously. If it did, it wouldn't really be a good film. It wouldn't really be that great. Like, I like that the movie acknowledges it's kind of stupid and it doesn't really take itself too seriously. And you know what this felt like watching? It felt like watching stuff like, almost in a way, watching films like this. These two. Like, there's times when this movie actually felt like I was watching films like these three again. It really definitely felt like that. Or even Shoot 'em Up. Even shoot 'em up right here. Like, we don't really get action films like that anymore. So I definitely like we got to see stuff like that again. And also, like, you got the well-filmed, unique action sequences and the set pieces that really do keep things interesting, and the effects do look really great, like delivering cringeworthy moments and gross moments in all the right ways, especially with a solid cast. And I enjoyed nearly every performance. And Ray Nicholson, like the guy who played the villain, like he's definitely ruthless, and in a very good way too. And also, like, with him, he even gets some more funny moments. And, like, the scene where they give the bully his comeuppance, right there, and Sherry tricks him into drinking hot sauce and then makes him pay for all of it. Or then when Nathan and Roscoe meet up, like, Nathan reveals all the traps and thinks the villains are Home Alone fans because, like, the house is pretty booby-trapped and stuff. And so, after Nathan does escape the two cops, Nathan then locates Sherry at an auto shop, and we find out from our twist, like, the reason why these hostages were not torturing her, and why she was just kind of sitting normally at their table throughout the majority of the film is because it turns out she's actually Simon's sister, and she had to fake having feelings for Nathan to assist in the heist. But you know she has actually fallen in love with him for real after they first met, and so Simon then immediately tries to kill Nathan against Sherry's protests, but Simon is shot by Lanston, and Sherry and Nathan are actually still both arrested. But Simon, though, like, obviously because that shot did not kill Simon, Simon gets up and Duffy is shot dead, and so he escapes in the ambulance holding Nathan, attempt to go get his revenge on Nathan for foiling his heist. Sherry, though, manages to free herself from the handcuffs, and she pursues the ambulance. While Roscoe, on the other hand, like, she makes Roscoe take Lanston, who's been wounded, to the hospital. Yeah, so, like more on the gory moments I'll explain. Like, more like the gory moments that happen in the film, like, where the main character, like, when the main character is tortured but doesn't feel any of the torture, the arrow in his leg gets twisted by Andre, and his fingernails get ripped off. At first I thought he was going to snap his fingers with the little tweezers, but it's actually taking off his fingernails. And of course, like, well, the scene is played for laughs, but it definitely does feel a little gruesome. Yeah, and the main character does suffer a lot of abuse too, and also, but you can't feel any of it, so it doesn't really feel all that bad. And, like, his thumb gets broken, he gets stabbed for the leg. Although he does manage to, like, snap his thumb back into place, it's unreal. It does look a little bit CGI'd unrealistic, but it's kind of a cool moment, though. It's like, I mentioned the tattoo fight scene was brutal, the kitchen fight scene was brutal. Like, this film was actually really damn brutal. In a way, like, this definitely does feel pretty R-rated. And most of the graphic stuff is actually shown on screen and not even cut away either. So now we get on with the finale. So after Nathan's been kidnapped and he regains consciousness and he breaks free from the handcuffs and he fights Simon and it causes their hospital to crash. Simon has just about had enough of Nathan at this rate. So Simon breaks his arm just as Sherry arrives. But because now he wants to also kill Sherry because Sherry's betraying him. Nathan, though, manages to inject himself with adrenaline. Like, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Like, whenever Nathan's about to run out of energy, he uses these EpiPens to inject more energy into himself to still stay active during this quest. And because with the exposed bone, you get the whole death scene with that, where he uses his exposed bone to go through the jaw and kill him. And then, of course, Nathan, though, because of all the injuries he's received at this rate, he falls into a coma. Injuries have now come back to him, but then he doesn't awake till like 2 weeks later. Like Christmas is long past, and it's now like January. He learns from the cop that Roscoe saved that because he still took part in some crimes, he's sentenced to 6 months house arrest. But the reason why he's not sentenced to jail and he's sentenced to house arrest is, well, because he saved the cop's life. And that cop actually has a daughter and sent Nathan a get well card. Then, and of course, also sentenced to 5 years probation. But then it's 1 year later where his house arrest is obviously cleared right there, and he's back to gaming again with Roscoe. And this timer that was usually done to control his bladder and stuff, but this time it's a timer because it's going off because he has to go visit Sherry this time. He visits Sherry, who's like near the end of this short sentence because she took part in the robbery still. They're sharing a cherry pie, the food that she introduced him to in prison, and of course, like, they're using this love dialogue, and his guard's telling him to knock it off and stuff. Like, it's like, well, and Sherry's like, oh, it's a prison, what do you expect? And yeah, of course. But then the prison guard then leads Sherry back to her cell. Nathan's still at the table, and he chews the pie, and he smiles. He's waiting for her release, and happy to have her in his life now, and his life's now on a new track. And so, the film's over. That's where Novocaine ends. Right there. Nathan kills Simon with an exposed bone to his jaw. He only gets house arrest, and him and Sherry are going to start dating for real once Sherry gets out of prison. And Nathan has a much more positive outlook on life now, and actually is willing to take more risks. And finally, eating physical food. So it's a perfect ending for this story. Now, would I have bad qualities with the film? I would probably have to say the character of Roscoe. I'm going to say this, I wasn't really much of a fan of this character, and he didn't really feel much useful to the plot, except be this reluctant ally of Nathan, and he never really shows up in person until near the climax, so I'm not sure you really needed him at that rate. And of course, like, it also just really felt, it kind of just felt like the actor was just playing Ned from the Spider-Man films again, because he's played by the same actor that plays that irritating comic relief Ned in those MCU Spider-Man films. A character I was never a fan of, that I never found funny. Like, was probably just was really annoying character in those MCU Spider-Man movies. So it really just felt like that character again, in a way. So I'm not sure you really needed Roscoe. The twist of Sherry being the sister of the Crooks, that was a little bit iffy. Did they really need to go that route? I don't think they really should have went that route with her being the villain's sister. It's kind of a frustrating moment because you kind of see the perfect moment near the end where they could have just really forgot about that and just had her still be an actual hostage for a little more maximum impact. But the reveal that she's actually the villain's sister doesn't really leave almost nearly any of that. It doesn't hurt the film, but still. Other than those, I think Novocaine is honestly an awesome movie that's a blast from start to finish, and it's definitely worth checking out. So in the end, Novocaine is definitely worth a watch and buy for your collection because it really is a blast from start to finish, and you want to see the idea of an action hero being immortal to pain because of this condition he has in a comedic action film. You'll definitely get that here. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review of Novocaine. If we're any hungry like Novocaine, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you're interested in the idea of a John Wick and Deadpool combined action film, you'll definitely get that here because Novocaine is definitely worth the watch and buy for your collection, no doubt. And if we're any hungry like Novocaine, I'm going to give Novocaine a 9 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for Novocaine. Now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys thought about Novocaine. Whether you liked this movie, whether you hated this movie. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.